A Bay Area author has just released a new anthology of stories from people around the country who are still suffering from long COVID.
As KTVU's Claudine Wong explains, Mary Ladd says it's important to make people battling an invisible illness visible.
We spent months talking about COVID. As the pandemic rolled on, it seemed like that was all anyone talked about. And so now, even though COVID is still around, most feel like it's over. There's only one problem. It's not anywhere close to being done for millions of Americans suffering from long COVID.
Well, what needs to be told is that there's so many of us that we're not able to work or we can't work full time. We struggle with housing, with getting medical care. There isn't a cure, there isn't treatment. There are a lot of medical professionals who are doing their best and they really aren't sure how to approach long COVID. So I wanted to bring those themes to life, that there are a lot of commonalities regardless of whether you have 12 symptoms or 3 that keep coming back.
According to a recent survey by the Centers for Disease Control, 18 million Americans have suffered from long COVID. 8.8 million say they currently have the condition, which is defined by ongoing or new symptoms present 4 to 12 weeks after the infection. Mary Ladd has been dealing with symptoms since she got COVID in February of last year.
It was bad from the start, from right when I was infected. And it was 1 month later where it still seemed just, all I wanted to do was sleep. And yet, even when I'm sleeping, the sleep is disrupted and it's not quality sleep. And I'm fatigued. And so there really hasn't been a break. So it was kind of immediate and it stuck.
But as she faced symptoms, she also searched for support. Ladd is a breast cancer survivor and in 2019 wrote about her journey in a book called Wig Diaries. It was then she also found a writing community of support in a magazine called Wildfire.
And the information and the way I feel when I read Wildfire, I wanted to find that for long COVID, and it doesn't exist. And so I thought, well, why don't I maybe do it?
That started a year-long journey to create this book called The Long COVID Reader, writing and poetry from 45 long haulers. People like Long Island resident Nikki Stewart.
My brain is foggy on a good day, with many words dancing out of reach.
And Andrew David King, a UC Berkeley doctoral student.
But is it the sane or the insane who don't talk about the tragedy in front of them?
And artist and teacher Pato Hebert.
Temples and frontal lobe throb. The most painful ongoing symptoms set in for good last summer, a completely fried nervous system. My mood board is like a secondhand shop.
An anthology of varied experiences and stories.
I hope their words can hammer home the point that anyone can experience unpredictable, extended illness following one single COVID-19 infection. This book is by and for the long hauler community.
People across the country telling their stories. Each is different, but each describes what has become an invisible illness.
I think that the writing is so good and the stories are so interesting that that's what sort of draws people in. It is tough reading, but you know, each of us are one infection away from joining the long COVID club.
It is valuable information for a condition doctors are still trying to understand. Since the book's release, Ladd has presented to researchers and held readings. People have been coming forward from around the world asking for the chance to tell their story.
Overwhelmingly, the contributors have felt relief to at last be able to tell their story, to get their story out into the world, and also to be a part of a community. That's a really important piece.
Important to be visible, critical to know you are not alone. Claudine Wong, KTVU, Fox 2 News.